3DO.
"7 weeks have passed since we set sail from Enroth. Slaves freed from our skirmishes with Regnan fleets talk of the turmoil in Erathia. I suspect their stories are true, but I must see the evidence with my own eyes. The ocean tides were kind enough to bury the fallen on its shores. However, the smoking ruins of Cloudfire greeted us with nothing but destruction and the stench of death. With no survivors, only the battlefield could tell me what happened here. Despite the breath of devastation, the presence of Minotaurs suggests a raiding party. However, the ranks were too well organized. This is the work of the dungeon overlords. Evidently, the wizards were prepared, but overrun nevertheless. These atrocities rend my heart and fuel my anger. Erathia's banner must be respected, never disgraced. I think of my beloved Roland and my son Nikolai, and how much further this war will carry me from them. But my duty is clear. My father's kingdom must survive. Erathia must not fall to its enemies.
Hello and welcome to Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the Restoration of Erathia. So, it's been a very interesting set of story here, because we just finished the prequel of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Shadow of Death. We know that Sandro was betrayed by the puppet king that he thought was a puppet king that turned out not to be the case, of Phineas. And in the meanwhile, we now have a tie-in between Might and Magic VI, The Mandate of Heaven. In Might and Magic VI, we have heard a lot about how we know that Roland Ironfist is missing, but also the Queen, Catherine Ironfist, is also missing, and now we know where she went. She went to the continent of Antagarich to see to her father's kingdom, the kingdom of Erathia. We've seen quite a bit of Erathia in the prequel, but now we'll get to see more of it. And it's facing slightly different perils than they were before with the Necromancers. For the whole plot point of the Cregan in Might and Magic VI also comes back in Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Restoration of Erathia. Now, the intro cutscene was also quite interesting because it's I think, at least, that Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia was the first time when the neural computing switched to the style of art that we know quite well from Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and that will later on be also used in in Might and Magic VII for Blood and Honor. And it's quite an iconic style too. And also in the cutscene was a rare opportunity for us to see the real sizes between the different types of creatures that we see in Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Normally they're scaled to be easy to control, as if they were pawns on a chessboard. Rather, chessboard. And then we don't really get to know what the scale normally is. Interestingly enough, there is one person in Celestial Heavens who is quite adamant about trying to restore the original sizes of all the troops, and he has made a few mods to that effect. So if you want to, check that out. Now, another very interesting thing about what you're seeing right now. This is the Restoration of Erathia main menu, but this is not the version of the Restoration of Erathia you might be familiar with. Well, for one thing, most people will not be familiar with the Restoration of Erathia altogether, because what is now the most well known is Heroes of Might and Magic 3 Complete. But Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia has this unique interface, just like we had with the Heroes Chronicles games. And it also has a bit of a different gameplay mechanic, because the later Heroes of Might and Magic 3 expansion packs have changed the gameplay slightly. So it's a bit different in this game. And not only that, but the most interesting part of what you're seeing right now is that this is not the Windows version. Why? This is the Linux version by Lock Entertainment Software. Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia indeed has seen a Linux port, and this is running natively on my desktop, which is running OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. Now, for those who don't know about Tumbleweed, it is a rolling distribution, which means that it has the latest and greatest software always. And Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia Linux Edition has been released in the year that Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia was released in general, which is 1999. So it's an old game. Getting that to run was a bit of a hassle. But basically what it comes down to is that Lucky Software, which is the people who were doing the actual porting of the game, they have a installer on their website, which is also the website where they have installers for a lot of other of their Linux ports. The installer still works fine, and the only problem with it is that the libraries that come with the game no longer work with modern Linux distributions. However, some enthusiasts have made a collection of libraries that does actually work with modern Linux distributions. However, it's still not straightforward to set it up correctly, so I also had to make my own small script that launches Heroes of Might and Magic 3 The Restoration of Erathia natively on at least OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. I guess it's also portable to other distributions, but this is what I'm running, and it works like a charm. That said, The Restoration of Erathia as a base game is not great. It's not compatible with Heroes of Might and Magic 3 HD mod, and of course the HD mod is also just a Windows version. And the HD mod does a lot of things that people now take for granted, and I would not really want to lose the whole user-friendliness that it really gives to the game. However, for the sake of showing this off, the fact that you can actually run Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Restoration of Erathia natively on Linux, I will be playing one campaign scenario or one campaign, I'm not sure yet, I will think of which one to do. So, in any case, I will be playing one campaign in this base Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Restoration of Erathia version, and then I will switch to the HD version with Heroes of Might and Magic 3 complete, so that you get to enjoy a HD experience, because it's also a bit of an upgrade for the viewers as well. And the details about how to set this up should be in the description of the video, and I might also make an article about that on my website. We'll see how that goes. But also, in addition to the base game that we have, let's also look at something that we usually do at the start of each game, and that is to look at the manual. And indeed, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Restoration of Erathia comes with a player manual. And it is quite extensive. The manual is 144 pages long. Yeah. But we're only going to go through the very first part of it, which is the letter. This is a letter from a very well-known individual that we have met in Might and Magic VI, the Mandate of Heaven, and that is the Regent Wilbur Humphrey. So, let's see what this says.
Commander, I hope this letter finds you well and has reached you before you set sail with Queen Catherine to Erathia. I regret these trying times. The duties forced upon me have made it impossible for me to see you off in person. First, let me congratulate you on your commission. I'm glad, no, thankful, Catherine has someone of your character and abilities among her entourage. I do not hold such an unqualified opinion of some who travel with you. I know you are more at home in the battlefield than in the company of the royal court, but let me remind you the strategies and tactics employed there are every bit as complex and potentially deadly as any found in military conflict. No, I don't have any real proof of any particular disloyalty or treachery, just a feeling. It is unfortunate your first visit to Erathia could not be made in happier times. It is a land of beauty and stability. Or at least it has been under Nicholas Griffinhart's rule. He was a great king and a dedicated ally. I'll remember him best as man of strength and fairness. Both qualities have bred true in our dear Catherine. You know she has not ruled out the possibility foul play was involved in his death. Do not be too quick to dismiss her thoughts of those of a grieving daughter. True, she is saddened, but has not lost her hold of her wisdom. Ha! Listen to me and my gloominess. Just watch your back as a favor to a friend made cynical and suspicious by age. I'm sure I'm just seeing things in the worst possible light. A vocational habit. Perhaps I haven't been at this job too long. Farewell, friend. I look forward to your return, to a good cup of tea by the fire, and to the recounting of your journey's tale. May the seas be calm and the wind steady in your sails. Best regards, Wilbur Humphrey, Regent of Enroth. Alright, well, short and sweet. So basically this letter was sent before Catherine went on the journey across the sea to reach the shores of Antagarich. And basically what we learn from it is that she is going to visit the land of Nicholas Griffinhart. Nicholas Griffinhart is the former king of Erathia. And we know from the prequel that Sandro, our dear necromancer, was somewhat involved in the demise of Nicholas Griffinhart, for he was searching for poison fit for a king,
we'll see a bit more about how that went in the game itself. Now then, we are also in the position of the commander in Catherine's army, so that is why we are playing Heroes of Might and Magic 3 to begin with. And we'll be playing alongside the army of Erathia, or of Queen Catherine. And also here, this is a preface from John McCannigan. It does mention Might and Magic VII, so I wonder when this was written or when Might and Magic VII was released. I wouldn't imagine that Might and Magic VII would be released before Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the Restoration for Erathia, but it might be wrong. We're released pretty close by, I think. Yeah, this is only about Heroes 3. Although there's also an interesting preface. So, the manual itself is also very interesting. It's very long because it goes into a lot of details about the interface, like clearly unnecessary details about the interface and so on, but still it's interesting. Not only that, it also goes into detail about a lot of the gameplay mechanics. A lot of things that the game itself doesn't actually make clear. Also nice concept art, as you would imagine. But for example, let's see. Quest log? That's an interesting looking quest log. I think it's quite different in the final game. Yeah, so here is an interesting thing. They provide a whole table about the primary skill advancement. So, for a particular given class, you have a chance of getting +1 to one of your primary skills, and changes at level 10 or above. Very interesting how that works. And also all the secondary skills, and exactly what they do. The game itself is pretty good at telling you that, but this gives even more information. Of unnecessary detail, as per usual. That's quite a dwarf. And that is a Kriegan. Very interesting to see that. Also, here you can even see something about the multiplayer. Some details about TCP/IP, and nothing as in detail as I discovered with a bit of reverse engineering. But something that I didn't even know is that you can whisper by using the F1 to F8 key in the game, if you're playing in multiplayer. And then you also have, of course, all the spells in the game, and what they do exactly, including the formulae. For example, you never actually know in the game that Resurrection does power times 50 plus 160 health worth of creatures. Actually, apparently it doesn't actually have that much of an effect when you advance through the ranks, aside from the fact that you get to keep your resurrected troops. So it's a lot of very, very interesting in-depth information that you would never really think of. Ah, that's interesting. That's concept art of the arrival of Catherine on Antagarich. And all the troops in the game as well. Also some concept art of angels. Manticore. Wyvern. This is very popular as far as concept arts of this game goes. Another Kriegan. Ah, the vampire. I still prefer vampires from the second and fourth games, but okay. Centaur. Rock. Ah, Solmer. Not really just any particular, not just any random genie rather, but this is definitely Solmer. all the heroes and exactly what they have as their unique ability. Including all of their skills too. And some keyboard shortcuts. mplayer.com is the #1 multiplayer game service on the internet. Obviously long dead by now. Minimum system requirements. Windows 95. Heat. Also long dead by now. Windows 98. And they even had an index because it was such a big thing. And also there's a 90-day limited warranty, but as you expect it's not actually a warranty for the game, but rather it's a warranty for the CD that comes with the game. So that makes sense. Alright, so that was that for the introduction. So let's just go ahead and start. I could show the tutorial, but I think I already showed it in the prequel. So let's not do that now, unless I have not shown it. In that case I will do that at some point later. But we have a choice of 3 different campaigns. One is what you expect from the intro, Long Live the Queen. Another one is Dungeons and Devils, a take on Dungeons and Dragons, I'm sure. And the third one is Spoils of War. You can also see that there are a few other things that we have not unlocked. I guess it does make sense to start with Long Live the Queen, although starting with Dungeons and Devils is not a bad idea either. They actually take place in parallel. I think Spoils of War is a bit later. So, let's just start. Long Live the Queen, campaign description. Our landing was confirmed both our rumors and fears. Oh, that's Catherine speaking. Our landing has confirmed both our rumors and fears. With the death of my father, Erathia's lands are being greedily divided by her neighbors. And oddly enough, the first scenario of the campaign takes place not in Erathia. These are contested lands. And this, as you can see, is Bracada. This is Avli. And this is all the contested lands. This is Nyon. And these are, if I recall correctly, these are the lands of how are they called? Well, it's basically Eofol right now, but it's a land that was ruled by the halflings at some point. And Erathia itself is over there. I guess it kind of implies that Catherine landed in here. But that's a bit strange because that's on the other side of the continent from where traditionally we think that Enroth is. Because Enroth should be more to the west. But perhaps Catherine took the other way around and went from the east and then reached here. We don't really know for certain. Anyway, homecoming. Queen Catherine has departed to elicit military support from King Gavin Magnus of Bracada. Other generals are fanning through the region. Establish a base of operations. Local militia determine the extent of the Nyan occupation and find their invasion route. So we are seeking help from our good friend Gavin Magnus. We already have met him several times in Heroes Chronicles. So, good continuity here. And apparently there's a Nyan occupation. So Nyan is here, and actually you can even see the island of Nyan here as well. It extends quite a bit. But it does not have any physical connection to the mainland. And this is where warlocks live. The warlocks are represented in this game by the dungeon town. So that's why they said dungeon overlords. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and try to investigate what is really going on. So our description. To win, you must locate and capture the town of Terranius. Your heroes will be limited to 6th level in this scenario, but your 4 strongest heroes will travel with you to the next scenario of this campaign. Choose a bonus. First aid tent. No thanks. Pikeman. Your starting hero will begin with 14 additional pikemen. Or rare resources. Your treasure will receive an additional 5 mercury, sulfur, crystalline gems. Yeah, I think this is the thing that makes the most sense. Pikemen are okay, but it's not useful in the long run. So let's go.
Our initial landing has captured a devastated outpost. Information is scarce and unreliable at best. Neighboring citizens have fled their villages. Remaining survivors tell conflicting stories. Evidence points to a Nyan invasion. Rally local militia and train them quickly. Destroy all hostile forces you encounter. Assume the worst. Assume we are at war.
From Catherine Ironfist, Queen of Enroth. General, our initial landing shows evidence of an invasion by the dungeon overlords of Nyan. These people have been under Nyan military rule for the past 30 days. We assume the adjacent towns of Plinth, Muram, and Tralia are also under Nyan or Eofor occupation. Other generals are fanning through the region to determine the extent of the territorial violation. For this area, your goal is simple. Establish a base of operations, rally local militia, determine the extent of the Nyan occupation, and find their invasion route. If you can secure their main base of operations, you'll be able to quickly eliminate any remaining forces. Good luck. So yeah, in the Linux version, you have very poor quality videos. Basically, the game, even in Windows, has 2 options of video quality. It has high and low. The low video quality is encoded in the Smacker codec, and the high video quality is encoded in the Bing video codec. And unfortunately, here the video quality setting does not do anything. In the Linux version, all the cutscenes are in MPEG-2 codec. That seemingly has been transcoded from the low video quality of Smacker in Windows. So that's a bit unfortunate, but it's still kind of okay, because we're only going to play this version for a short amount of time. Now, when I started the game, like when I was little, when I had this game, actually this was the very first game that I owned. It was the Windows version, of course, but still, it's quite interesting. I got this as a present for one of my birthdays. When I started this up, I was like, okay, this seems literally impossible. We are Christian, level 1 knight, with a ballista, specialty of ballista, which is the attack and defense skill of any ballista for each level attained after 4th level. Christian himself was always more of a frontiersman than a knight, having set foot in nearly every part of Enroth before finally settling into military service in Erathia. Though a wanderer and a bit of dreamer, his battlefield tactics are feared throughout the world. So another link between Enroth and Erathia. The continent of Antagarich is sometimes also called Erathia, even though it's not really that specific. It should be just the kingdom of Erathia. We have basic artillery and basic leadership. That makes Christian a pretty good secondary hero, because artillery is good for town defense. And also, a free ballista is always nice. So, I thought that this was literally impossible, because I have 11 pikemen, 10 spell points, and we have lots of pikemen, and a pack of archers, or even lots of archers, surrounding Christian. From here, we do have more troops, though. And somehow I did not really think when I was little about sending troops from the town. Really? Really, game? Going to give me Sanya, whose specialty is Eagle Eye? Then we also have Josephine, level 1 alchemist. I don't want either. We will be playing as Erathia all this time, so I don't really want a hero from a different alignment. Also, seriously? 72 goblins? That seems a bit overkill. Now, Sanya can give me a lot of troops, but I don't want to really do that. I want to train my troops, because I need to have 4 heroes that transfer to the next scenario. So I'm just going to stick with Christian for this week. It's not really that efficient, but hey. But yeah, the point is actually that if I try to attack lots of pikemen, they are just here so that you could get them. You have pikemen with a desire for greater glory wish to join you. Of course you can say no, and then you can lose horribly. But you're supposed to say yes. I do not want to do that. But oh well. So you actually start with a pretty strong army. And hey, this is not the HD version, so actually in the base game, they don't show you how many troops you have, they show the amount of troops that you get per week, which is kind of useless, but hey. And you cannot press on the fort to buy everything, so you actually have to go to the fort and buy all the troops one by one. At least now we have a fort, and we can buy troops from it. As opposed to the second game, where we had to click on the individual dwellings of each of the troops. But anyway, I will not be needing firepower for some time now. Let's see... 5, 4... I could leave the pikemen, but they're kind of strong, so I don't really want to leave them. I also need to leave the archers, and they're kind of strong as well. Oh, and also I cannot press Control to split the pikemen, so I need to use the split key to do this. And we have a lot of boats. Okay, from treasure chests, I just want to take the gold, because we will have plenty of experience. So I think I need to get the FSO inventory. Alright, but that will be all for the time being. I forgot to buy a spellbook, of course I did. So go back and get your spellbook. But anyway, let's save this. So... actually... let me remember, what was the campaign description? That's Long Live the Queen. Alright, so I will see you all next time when we continue the first scenario. Later.